In this video, we're going to try to find out what integers actually are. So let's start back with the very first set of numbers that we ever learned whenever you were just a very small child and you were watching Sesame Street or Barney or something like that, and you learned to count by doing that. And so we had this set of numbers, the first one we ever learned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on and on and on. That set is called the counting numbers because that's how we learn to count. Another name for it is the natural numbers. And also then later on we find out that it's called positive numbers, but we don't know this at that point. They're just counting numbers to us. Well, then we get a little bit older and we realize that there's something called zero, that you can have no toy trucks or no Barbie dolls. So we start to learn the concept of zero, and then we have to add that into the set of numbers that we already had. Well, when we add that, we call it the whole numbers. Then as we get a little bit older and we start learning that there are things that you can't describe by the zero or the counting numbers. And those things would be things like describing if you're $20 short in your checking account or something like that. So you have to have a new set of numbers, and that would be called the negative numbers. So we have to introduce this set of negative numbers now. When you put all of those together, all of the negative numbers, 0, and then the positive numbers, we call that set the set of integers. And that's what we're going to be working with in this section. Now, if you look at the integers on a number line, then we can separate them out right here at 0. 0 is like Switzerland in the middle. It's neutral. So we have our positive numbers on the right, negative numbers on the left. Now, let's go ahead and do a couple of examples here. This says represent the given quantity by an integer. So we're going to just write this as an integer. A worker in a silver mine works 1,078 feet underground. Well, we know that the number itself is 1,078. But because he's working underground, that's like a below zero. So we would represent that with our negative symbol. So that would be minus or negative 1,078. In the next example, it says the peak of a mountain is 16,611 feet above sea level. Well, we know it's 16,611. But because it's above sea level, that means that it's in the positive direction. So we represent that with a plus. Now, normally, when you're writing numbers, if it is a positive number, we don't have to put a symbol. If it is a negative number, though, you must put the negative symbol. All right, now we can also learn to graph these things on our number line. So let me plot these numbers, 5, 0, -8, 3, and -9. We're going to plot them one at a time. Remember that our positive numbers are to the right of 0, our negative numbers are to the left of 0. So 5 would be here between 4 and 6, 0, -8, 3, and -9. Not too bad. We can also learn to compare integers, and you guys have already done this with the positive numbers. If you look at 5 and 8, then we know that 5 is less than or smaller than 8, right? Let's look at this on our number line. 5 would be here, 8 would be here. So do you notice that as you go to the left, the numbers get smaller? As you move to the right, the numbers get larger. Well, we have the exact same thing when we extend out the number line and include in the negative integers. So if I have these two numbers, -4 and -10, if I were to draw it out on a number line, -10 would be to the left of -4. That means that it's smaller than -4, or -4 is larger than -10. In our next example, we could do the same exact thing. We could draw it out on a number line. We could put our -1 would be to the left of 0, 1 would be to the right of 0. So remember, as you move to the left, things get smaller. So -1 would be smaller than or less than 1.